Welcome to Make and Decorate, a podcast for makers who love to sew, quilt, knit, and decorate. My guest today is a quilt designer and teacher, Kae Parks from Jenny Kae Quilts. Hello, Jenny, and welcome to the Make and Decorate podcast.
Hello. I'm very excited to be here. I feel like I'm in a bit of rarefied air because you've had some really awesome people on here. It's really very cool. Very cool.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm in my 7th year. And
amazing.
It is. It's crazy how fast it goes. And then, I took 4 years. Everybody knows this. I say it a lot. So people who've been listening from the beginning knows that it took me 4 years to collect the equipment and do all this research and thought I had to be perfect. And then finally I told myself, you're going to do it or you're not. So I finally did it. And I'm so glad I did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Fear can be crippling. You know that? It's just, I know. And then I'm like one of those researchers and have everything, all your ducks in a row before you do that kind of stuff. But anyway, so here we are. And yes, I've had some wonderful guests and you now are being added to the queue of all of that. So I'm really happy to meet you. And we have lots of great things to talk about. And you are just really in the heart of everything quilty. And so let's just kind of sort of dive in. And I just want to go back to the beginning because, I don't know if everyone wants to know, but I like to know, how did it all begin? Were you quilting as a little girl or did you start later in life? So let's hear it.
Well, every hero needs an origin story, right? You have to have. So I grew up, my grandmother taught me some hand embroidery, right? And yeah, a lot of hand embroidery, a little bit of sewing, but not too much. My mom did a little bit of sewing growing up, but nobody did quilts. Although, I'm just remembering now, I had an idea. So she would make my prom dresses and things like that, right? And I had an idea at one point to take those scraps. I may do this. I may do this, Stephanie. To take those scraps and make kind of it was, just because they were all different. It was a royal blue taffeta and a baby blue taffeta and a white taffeta, right? So beautiful, all sparkly. And I thought these would look really nice, all put together and laid out in a quilt. And I thought about putting that together. I may have to go back to that and do that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now note to self, right? Quilters are always coming up, always get a new idea. Here it is. Oh, I got to do that. So, but I didn't learn to quilt. I didn't start quilting until I was homeschooling my girls. And we were going through a home ec thing, and the next thing was to make these quilted placemats. I thought, I know how to sew. I got my sewing machine. I can do this, but I better just try it myself so I know what the heck I'm talking about, right? It's always a good plan.
Yes.
So I went to JoAnn's, which, goodbye, JoAnn's. All gone. Did you hear? Every single one is going to go.
Yeah, by May. I've been following this because it's just one of the last big box fabric stores out there.
Yeah.
Which is kind of sad. And I know that they've been competing with all of the brick and mortar, smaller shops and everything. But I always felt like there was room for everyone.
Right.
And those big box stores are needed because if you just need to run out and get a staple, they have it.
Right.
I like to buy my specialty quilt fabrics from the quilt shops and,
right. Yes.
some staples, and they have all the crafts. So.
Oh, yeah. All the things. You go in there. It's an adventure.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Part of my thought is, what did you do with all the money I gave you?
Well, that, and I kind of did a deep dive in just the whole business end of it because I'm like, how could they filed for bankruptcy once and now again, and now they've actually haven't tried. The first time they tried to salvage it, and they were given $100 million from an investor. What did they do with that? Because they didn't invest in my local store. I mean, they were always overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Not enough people working. And then you have unhappy customers. And the store just looks unkempt. So anyway, it was like, yeah, what did you do with all that? But I came up with my own. Let's just do this little tangent real quick.
Okay.
I'm
in.
I came up with the, like, I know the root cause.
Okay.
This is much for me.
Spill the tea.
I think they tried to be everything to everybody. They got into the fabric printing business to compete with Spoonflower. They started to sell Liberty Tanalon online. They did the memberships and the online stuff, and plus their stores, their actual quilt stores, plus their online stuff. I mean, they just like had their little hand in every little piece of the pie. And it's just like, do what you're good at. You're good at the big box physical brick and mortar stores and some online, of course, because they don't carry everything. And then it got worse after the pandemic. And then you go in there and you can't even like get everything you need for a single project. So I just feel like, don't do the whole Spoonflower and, all that other stuff.
And I can see the thing though. You're right. You're a business and you're thinking this trend, it might be taking off. We got to get ready for it. And I get that, but you're right. All the things we can't do all the things. That is,
because I think after they did it the first time, the first bankruptcy is when I saw like, oh, we're printing. Like, I think that's where they invested all this stuff and it just did not work. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. So.
Oh, no, I really like that. And that's good. I need to remember that as a business person. I'll be first to say, I am not great at handling money. I'm very easily distracted by shiny objects. And, let's go. But you really need to focus on what you're good at. Narrow that down. Let's calm down and think about this before you do that. And yeah, I think, boy, that kind of hits the nail on the head, because you're right. After the pandemic, I had a joke there that I always wanted to go. When I went in JoAnn's, I wanted to go with somebody because they would take the number and wait in line to get stuff cut at the counter. I could go around and do the shopping, and then we'd swap out. They could do their stuff. And then by the time we'd be ready to cut. And I worked, and I know being behind that cutting counter, my after school job was working at Sofro Fabrics, which was bought by JoAnn's. After I stopped working there. So
interesting.
Way back in the day, I worked there and I know the cutting and I know the thing. And I worked in local quilt shops here in town. So I've got a good feel for both of them.
You have experience in bigger stores and the local quilt shops.
Nice. I have tales from behind the cutting table. Ooh. I definitely do.
We're going to talk about one of those things later too. That has to do with ripping. Okay.
Okay. All right. We're going to rip. Okay. So anyways, I went into JoAnn's. That's where you over fabric, right? That's where I went. And I got the supplies and I got these wonderful fabrics, kind of a burgundy thing. And the pattern, I think, suggested, do a variety of darks and lights, maybe that kind of thing. So I picked up an assortment and I put them together. And the way you arranged it, there was it was 6 different fabrics, I think. And so there was one fabric on the back, but then you had an assortment of all the fabrics on the front. And I arranged it so you got this beautiful flow from light to dark. And I thought, I love this. The idea, so much potential. What could you do with all this? It was very exciting to me. I was hooked. So then this will show you how far back in the day I am. I went to the library and I learned how to quilt by watching Eleanor Burns on VHS.
I mean, I watched her a lot too. I still do, and it's on PBS.
Yeah,
she is awesome.
Well, I watched
the fabrics on the floor
over the shoulder. I know sometimes I want to do that, but I can't. It's her thing.
It is her thing.
Yeah, and she's awesome. But then watching. So I go to the library, right? They'd have a limit. 10 items on one subject, please. And I'd be like, okay, I'm walking out with my 10. And it'd be the quilting stuff. And then I DVR'd. I would DVR Simply Quilts with Alexander said, love of quilting, and on and on. Yeah, all of them. And I do that. And then when I had time by myself, I'd say, okay, I'm watching this. And then I'd always tell my family, right, when I carved out that time for me to go shopping, I'm sorry. Okay, I want you to understand. I'm entering a rift in the time-space continuum, and I will come out when I'm darn good and ready. Okay? All right. Leave me. And just enjoy it. Oh, man, it's so much potential. Quilting has so much potential. I love it. I love it. So that's how I learned. I learned to do it that way. I think I took like a beginning quilting class, a couple of them, but I'm really a visual learner, and my, what do I want to say? Attention span is quite small. So when I want to learn something, okay, show me. Go ahead. And if I can't find it there, okay, I'm going to go on the next place and everything. So it's hard for me to settle in a class. Let me rephrase. I probably wouldn't be my best customer because I want to learn the things, especially with videos, right? People like a little longer thing, but I'm like, okay, I want to know this information. You can't tell me. Goodbye. Now the next person. Goodbye. You know? It's like in The Devil Wears Prada. I'm done with you. Off you go. You can't help me.
Oh, it's
I'm
hilarious.
not that mean, though. I swear.
No one can be as mean as
I know, right? Right?
What's it's based off of?
Oh, you said it out loud. I know, right? Yeah.
Like
anyways,
Voldemort.
So that's how I learned to quilt.
Oh, well, that's fun because it's sort of how I learned as well. Because I didn't, no one around me quilted except for my grandmother, but she lived farther away, and she did make me a quilt when I was a kid with the little sunbonnet Sues on it, and I loved it, loved it. So I've always wanted to know, but when you don't know and you see these magnificent like compositions of all these, like I'm looking even behind you, the flowers and the stems and the purple pieces and the blue pieces, and you're just like, how in the world is that even done? Like when you don't know. So that's kind of like how I was. I sewed again, like you, like learned on my own, like with clothing and the whole going to the Hancock Fabrics and getting the patterns and stuff. But yeah, so I didn't know. And then I went into a quilt shop one time just to get yardage for a pin. And I'm looking around like, oh, I would love to be able to do this. And she's like, you can. I was like, what? And then it was like you. It's just like I took off and never stopped with the quilting.
Oh, that's awesome. What was your first project?
Quilting is great. It was a class I took, and it was we did the pinwheel block.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
And no, I'm sorry. That was the second class. I did two classes with them. It was at a local quilt shop, and we did a 9-patch square.
Oh, okay.
Lap size, 9 square. And the next one was a small, and that's a good project, I think, too, for beginners.
Yeah.
Because they can finish it and it can work. But it was like a 24 by 24, and it was like little pinwheel blocks, and that was it. Those are the classes I took, and then I just kept going like you, and watched all the TV shows and did everything I could to stay with it. And it's I think it's fun when you learn like that, though, because you're just so thirsty for the knowledge and you really want to learn, versus if you're like growing up and you're like, oh, I don't want it. You know,
I don't have to.
When your family wants to show you and you're just like, no, I don't want to make your stuff.
I want to do my own things.
Right.
My own.
I almost think like you can appreciate it a little bit more as adults because you're really into it and you're really just like after it. So it's fun. Yeah. There's good for both ways. So, and it's good that you already knew how to sew. I mean, being taught hand embroidery as a kid, that's cool.
It was. You were talking about fear at the very beginning, though. My grandmother had a lot of I could never do it good enough for her, you know? And so then there's a fear and you don't want to do it because it'll never be good enough. So why would you do it?
Right.
Why am I going to do it? I'm just going to fail at. Thank you. I'm going to do something else. But yeah, so I learned that. And actually, I can think, throughout my life, like a lot of crewel embroidery. I've always had kind of a kit around. I would go, again, either Hobby Lobby or JoAnn's, and you buy the dimensions embroidery kits and whatever, and work on those and do that, because I just enjoyed working with my hands after I got over that. That it had to be as good as she did.
Right.
And so interesting too. I grew up, well, when I started quilting, I kind of inherited a couple of the family quilts, right? And so my mom said, well, you take care of these, you watch them, and, pass them on down or whatever. And don't make sure you don't do anything with grandma's quilt. It's really important. Don't mess up grandma's quilt, protect it, take care of it. Okay. So I decided I'm going to hang it up on the wall. Beautiful. And it was just kind of a 9-block arrangement of hand embroidered baskets.
Ooh.
And this was probably, I'm thinking late 70s designs, motifs there. And I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at the hand embroidery on there. And I said, this is not my grandma's quilt. This is not the work she would have done. There are loops in there so big you could have caught a toenail. This is not my grandmother's work at all. Or if it is, then I didn't get the best end of that deal. So what I think happened with that, I inherited the quilt, but what I think happened is she was really active in her church, and it would not surprise me if there was like because the blocks, what do I want to say? The embroidery, even at the level that it was, there were some that were better than others. And so it kind of makes me think this
like
was
a
group
swap.
effort.
Yeah.
Like a swap where
Like a
everybody said,
bee.
okay, everybody's going to do a block. We'll put it together and then we'll sell it at the church auction or something like that. And she won it. So she called it her quilt. That's my quilt. I won it. But she didn't make that quilt.
No.
Not at all. Grandma did not make, not my grandma's quilt.
Yeah, you would know that for sure.
There were a lot of them, right? It's satin stitches where it's supposed to be, nice and close and smooth together. And like, you could stick your whole finger in there and pull them apart. Grandma didn't do that.
Oh, okay. So you didn't have to, you didn't have to hang that on the wall because it wasn't all her work.
Right. Well, no, I still hung it up on the wall, but I'd say, that's not my grandma's work. I don't know where it came from, but it's still pretty.
They should have all signed it, I think,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they didn't. So
they didn't. Oh, well. So then you started quilting when you're with schooling your girls, homeschooling. And then what happened like from that time to when what came next? Like, did you start working at a quilt shop or like
I did. It was probably about 12 years along. And after I started, I've been quilting for about 12 years. And girls were growing up and getting ready to go other places. And, they didn't need me as much. So, okay, maybe I need to find some work. Why don't I use what I enjoy? Maybe find some quilt shops that I could go at. Because I'd already been in a lot of the quilt shops in town.
Yes.
So I just called around and found one, and I was working there, and I worked there for about 2 years. And then there's another shop in town. I think I quit that for a little while to help my husband. He has his own business, and so I was working for him for about a year, and then I was working at another shop for a couple years as well. So it's a whole different view being behind the cutting table and being in the business stuff than there is on the front of the table.
Yes, I'm sure. Right, because the store has to order all the fabrics that they think will sell to their customers. Supplies and did they have classes and stuff like that? Did you get into teaching any of those classes?
I did. I think I come from a long line of teachers, people who are, what do I want to say, have a teaching mentality. Like, I've learned something here. I want to show you how to do this, right? That's kind of my mentality. And obviously I'm teaching my girls, so I'm trying to pass this information along. And I was helping at the quilt shop, the first quilt shop, and they had, they offered classes and stuff. And I'm thinking, hey, we can probably up our game here a little bit. I'd love to teach some classes. So I was thinking about what would be good. And let's do like a picture of the teacher and a little profile about them. So when you sign up for class, you know who you're taking it from and what their specialties are.
Yeah, I always enjoy that.
Yeah. So, right, exactly. You want to know, right, why should I trust you? How do you know?
Or why should I invest?
Right, exactly.
In this, are you going to, be good or not?
So in Golden, I'm in Denver, and in Golden, which is just the northwest side of town, there was a film studio. Then it was, at that point, it was F&W Media, and then it was bought by somebody else, and now it's Golden Peak Media.
Oh, okay,
but it turns out that they filmed a lot of the shows, like Fonz and Porter, and there was a few others that they filmed there. Quilting Arts, I think, was there. Stuff for Quilters newsletter, all kinds of things. Because they were a big publishing house, actually. It was kind of all there. And they were and let's see, JoAnn Fabrics, the one they make cuddle cloth. It's one of the versions
like
of Minky. Right. And they make cuddle cloth, and they contacted the shop manager and said, we'd like to have, and I think they looked through the list of stuff, and they said, we'd like to have this gal, me, come and demonstrate and film some demos working with Minky. And I don't know if you picked up on it. I am a little bit of a ham, and I have no problem being in front of camera. Excuse me. It's okay. And I've done Toastmasters. I've taken theater and improv and the whole shebang. And so my manager calls me up and she said, well, they want to have somebody teach how to sew with the cuddle cloth, and you don't have to if you don't want to, but they're looking for a couple videos. And I'm like, okay, be cool, Jenny, be cool. Yes, I would be willing to do that.
Yeah, I think I could. Let me check my schedule, but I could work it in.
I can work it in. I can figure that out.
And then you're like,
I know. I mean, I heard the front. It was so exciting. So exciting. And that was the first one I did. And then for like, I don't know, for probably about 5 years, I was doing, there were a couple years that I was there like every month doing a series for, some would be a quilt maker, McCall's Quilting. I never did for Quilting Arts, but there were a lot of ones that they would do blocks of the month. I teach the demos for the whole block of the month. And but that was the first one with the cuddle cloth. And I have to tell you, it is not a secret behind the camera. I'd never worked with cuddle cloth in my whole life before I filmed those 2 videos.
I was thinking when you were saying, oh, they wanted me to work with it. So I'm thinking, oh, maybe she was like a, specialist in that. Because that is a difficult, or can be a difficult fabric. I just sewed with that with my niece over the weekend. She wanted to make this shark tail blanket. And of course, we picked out this minky cloth, and because it's a blanket, so you want snuggly, and it's slippery. Yeah,
it is slippery. It is slippery. I liken it to, right, you audition for a part and they say, you're great, we love you, you got the job, we're gonna start on Monday. Awesome. Oh, and you speak French, right? And you're like, oui, s'il vous plaît.
Okay, this is good. So,
and you have to learn
you
it.
get the gig, and then you've never worked with the. So is this like a tale of fake it till you make it?
Fake it till you make it. Learn it to show it.
Yes,
and
learn it to show it.
That's what I was doing. I was learning it to show it, and there were
cool,
some video things that I've never done this before. We're gonna learn how to do it, but I think that works with my personality, because as I'm learning it, I'm answering those questions, and then I can answer those questions for the people who are watching. Yeah, because
you're going through everything that anybody else would if they attempted to sew with it. So,
right.
Yeah.
And I did research, right? I'm playing with it, and I was pulling up videos. I was checking the magazine, see if anybody had any tips. What do the manufacturers suggest? What are, and try to put all those together into a video and they're still out there. There's
nice.
2 of them. They're still out there.
Gosh, I'm taking lessons from you.
Oh,
to just
man.
Dive in, do it.
There was one I did. It was, when you're going to film something, you do what's called a step out, right? Yeah. And it's like if you're going to do flying geese, so say you're doing flying geese, first you're going to have all the parts that go into the flying geese and all your equipment. And then you're going to have, and then you'll sew it, right? But then you also need to have these partials. So here is the one with the first seam. Here is the set with the second seam. Here's the one where those are cut apart. Here's the one where they're pressed, or whatever, you have to have all of those parts in it.
Yeah.
So if there's anything that they need to pull out or edit or whatever like that, you have what you need there, and extra fabric too. My stash is pretty astounding to say. But there was one of them that was it was a bird's nest, a birdhouse, excuse me, and they wanted you to do it with reverse applique.
Oh, okay.
And somehow when I read that, I didn't think reverse applique. So somehow I missed that in the information. And so we're there the day of, and I'm looking at it going, uh-oh, okay, I need to figure out. And I'd never done reverse applique. So like, okay, day of, let's figure out how to do this. Fortunately, I had a producer there with me at the time, Caitlin, and she was really good. She does a lot of works with a lot of it, and with the other magazines that were being published there at the time. And so we're like, okay, so I need to do this and this. Okay, we got it. And I'm showing it, and the first time ever to do it. So yeah, it is not unusual. It's not optimal, but it's not unusual.
Yeah, but I was thinking too that you've got that personality, which is bubbly from what I've seen just by talking to you now. Yeah. And interest, like you capture attention, which is what they need in how-to videos. So that's great. I mean,
well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it works. I think some quilters who are teachers, you kind of get backed into it, right? Like you make something, and I love this, and the guild says, "Oh, will you teach that for us?" And then it kind of grows out of that. But for me, I'm like, okay, I want to talk. Who will listen? What can I talk about? Will you pay attention to me now? I mean, it's not quite that bad, but it's kind of like, I have all the equipment. You'll pay me to talk about quilting. I am there. What time?
That's the key word. Pay you for your time.
Yes.
Yeah. So maybe not start a podcast then.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, it's not so hard podcasting itself, I think, like once you get going and stuff, but it's I'm not the greatest at marketing myself. So yeah, and the money just doesn't come. If you build it, they will come. That doesn't happen. No. So
no, it doesn't. And isn't that interesting? I have trouble marketing myself or figuring out how to do it where it's not like a salesman.
Right.
And for only, but wait, there's more.
That fine line, and it's just like, oh. Yeah. Oh, so I'm learning, and anyway, let's get back to your story.
Okay.
And then from then on, I think, was that like your kind of like tipping off point where you just sort of then did word of mouth, and you worked with other publications and
and started to get into trying to get into magazines, and I still do that. I'm just on a lot of calls. I'll get different fabric companies and emails from a call. What do I want to say? The words that fail me. Submission call outs, right? A call out for, we want something for this project or something for this design or whatever. And or this new fabric line that we want to do something with it. And I could, if I'm inspired by it, if I think, wait, I know just what will work, and I can start to put together and it'll come together kind of quickly, then I'll submit it. But other times I'm not looking at the fabric, or I'm not what they're like the time frame they're looking for. I might Google a few images and look at them and think about it. If I'm not inspired, then I just won't submit. Right. I know a lot of people who are every time it's there, they want to do it. But I found that that's not always profitable. And I feel like at this point where I am, I want to be inspired. I don't want to just churn things to get it out.
At this point, you don't really have to, because you've churned, you've put in all of that, blood, sweat, and tears to be able to get a little bit more choosy about the
Yeah.
projects that you take and feel good about them. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, you know, what do I want to say? I'm not at the level of success where I can tell myself, oh, I'll just sit back and do whatever I want. But I'm at the level kind of in my creative space journey that I'm not going to do. I want to do stuff that I find joy in, that I look at years later and I say, oh, I love that still.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
I have great memories associated with that. And that's what I want, because that's going to be more beneficial in the long run. And I think also it gives you an authenticity, right? If I can look at the same project over and over again and say, I still love this, and the reason I did this and what I like about it there.
Yeah.
But I have some projects that I did, somebody was saying, all right, so what you need to do to start making money in your business, you need to have templates to go with your things. So I came up with something that would have templates with it. And now I look at that and kind of like, okay. I don't really, the feelings are not there.
Yeah.
The creative passion is not there.
Right.
So that's kind of what I try to look for. I want to have that creative passion in there. Something that really lights me up, as opposed to, oh, okay, I'll do it. Because then you just feel like a cog. Right. A lot of times I felt like it was just something for somebody else's product.
Yes.
And I don't want to do that. Just a
cog, just a number.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, because, it's interesting because there's just different levels that you can go. Like you said, I'm at this level that I love, and I like that. I respect it, and I like it because we don't all need to be, the overexposed celebrity person that, that's all you do. And maybe your intellectual property is not always your own, and you're running on other companies, platforms and products and that sort of thing. So that's great. I like hearing that from some people, because it's not always like, I think there's like this whole sort of behind the Wizard of Oz curtain that people think you're supposed, that it is, but it's not always that, glamorous sort of, oh, it's so wonderful to be, this, like bigger than big person in the industry. But, and I kind of, I myself as a consumer and a student gravitate towards the people who are genuine, who I can feel it from them that they love what they do. I'm not really like going after these corporate classes and you know what I mean? Like I love to connect with the person, and that's just me speaking for me. I mean, everybody's different, and everybody like kind of gravitates towards whatever makes them feel, like they're getting something from it and feel great and connected. So that's just like how I connect with people in the industry.
Oh, that's such a good point. I think when I very first started, I was doing a business class or something like that, and one of the lady asked me, "What do you want from your business?" And I'm thinking, well, I've watched Eleanor Burns and Alex Anderson and stuff like that. That's what I want to be. I want to be like that. And I'm not sure now that is what I want anymore. I would love, I mean, I have no problem with the notoriety. I would love to be recognized at the grocery store.
Sure.
I have no problem with that. Yeah. But I don't know. I need
true to yourself. Yeah.
Right. I need to find my own space.
Right.
And where I'm going to be and what I want to do. And then if people like it, come along, I mean, and there's always the side, of course, there's business. There's always a side, you got to make money. So it's that Venn diagram. What do I love and what will people pay me for? And more of that in the middle.
Yes. And I mentioned this H&H trade show. It's like Quilt Market, but it's up here in the Chicago area. So it's easy for me to go to. And last year they did this creative content creator summit. So people create content And it was a whole day of just like workshops, and there were some panel discussions, but like instructions and stuff like that. And some of them were like that, like, if you need to build up all of this followings and be on every platform and blah, blah, blah. And some of them, I came out of there and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't need to have like 1 million followers. And in fact, like I have a Patreon, and it's not ginormous by any means. It's very micro, but I love the connections with the people that are in this group. Like those are your super fans. So that's what I'm after. I'm not after like generic numbers or just like pumping everything. I mean, you of course, then there's the other part where, you do have to do something.
Right.
You can't just like lay back.
Oh, money again at the end of the month. Oh my gosh. Okay.
But and then I've just noticed that, quick little tangent again, but other industries, because like I listen to podcasts too, like you do, and I've been hearing that Instagram is not really the place anymore to promote your business, because Instagram's algorithms, and then just the way the platform has become to be flashy and, reels and numbers, and now your shops, and it's just very like, sort of like the get rich quick sort of platform scheme or whatever. And it's just people, like it used to be for art. It used to be like you posted pictures of your work. Not that you're selling every little thing.
Right.
And there's like a motive behind every single post and stuff like that. So I thought it was interesting just hearing someone else from a different, like from more of a business group saying that Instagram really is just like not really the place anymore.
What's happening.
Yeah.
You have to go where your people are. And I was shocked to find out a lot of my people are on Pinterest. And I have treated Pinterest like the redheaded stepchild.
Me too.
I haven't done that. I feel like I really need to go into that. But then also it's that whole thing. I don't want to be cogs for everybody else.
Exactly.
I don't want to be content for everybody else. Yeah. I want to be content. I want my
your
content.
Own content. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So yes, we agree. Wonderful. All right. So then let's talk about some of the things you do. Color. So you're known for your color courses or workshops or whatever we call them now. But like that's one of my favorite things too. Next to picking out fabrics is like my very favorite thing, but color is also part of that. And I love color, and I'm sure that's you do too, because that's why you teach it. But what drew you to working and teaching a course to help quilters pick out colors for their quilt projects?
Ooh, that is a great question. It was helping people pick out fabrics. It was people come into the store. Sorry. People would come into the store, right? And they might have a little scrap of fabric with them. They say, I need to make a quilt that's with this. Or they would come in and say, I want to make this pattern. Can you help me pick out fabric for it? Or we're redecorating my kitchen, and now the colors are blue and yellow. Can you help me pick it out? Right. And what I realized is that I probably have more of an intuitive eye. I just know what looks good to me and what I like. But people I was helping didn't have that. They couldn't see the same thing that I was thinking. And, I told my girls years ago, when they'd ask the question, how do I know what my gift is? What am I good at? How will I know those things? And they said, the way you know that is it's the thing where somebody says that you're just doing your normal stuff. And they say, wow, you're really good at that. And you realize not everybody thinks the same way. Not everybody does the same thing that I do here. And so it was really helping people pick out fabrics. And I realized too, I haven't taken, I don't have an art degree. I haven't done any of those classes or anything like that. And what I realized is when I was searching, how can I, as a quilter, learn more about color and share that with people and help people pick out fabric and design my own things, that there really, at that time, there was really nothing out there that was specific to quilters. I mean, there was their interior design or graphic design or something like that. I could find those, lots of them, but nothing specific to quilters. And most of them, I felt like, came at it from an art theory or, from an art theory, color theory perspective, right? And I'm thinking, I just want to match fabric. Can we not do the semester on the color wheel here so I can match my fabric? I just want to get to this part. So that's what I designed in the Quilters Color Course. It's just to take you through those steps. How do I, as a quilter, relate to color? And how does color work? That's one of my favorite things, because I spent a while, looking at different magazines and pictures and stuff. I'd sit back and say, why do I like this? What is it? What's happening here that I really like? Why do I want to keep looking at it? What is drawing me to this? And then other stuff that you look at, because people would bring in quilts and you're like, oh my, okay. That's interesting. In fact, there was one lady I was helping her pick out. It was for beginner course. We were doing log cabins. And she brought in this fabric, and she said, I want to use this as my focal fabric. I said, pick a focal fabric. And it was a probably mid 1980s peach and army green floral print. And I'm helping her. We're going throughout the store. And I'm like, I don't want anybody here to see me because I don't want them to know I'm responsible for whatever is going to happen here. I just don't want to be associated. But when she got into the class and we picked it out and we picked them all out, we put them together, I thought, that really works. Why does that work? And so I spent a lot of time thinking about those things and why does it work and how does color work? And we do get into a little bit of the color theory, but after you've started to kind of break down those matchy rules that we have and to kind of see how color actually works in nature, I'm a big proponent of using nature as the designer. You can't do color better than nature, right? Period. So often, we're talking about being inspired, right? I'll find out, like, if a magazine does a call out for, we want something for spring or fall. We want something for fall. So I'll go on Google and I'll look up fall images. What do I think of when I think of fall? What do I think of? Maybe food or leaves. Aha, leaf. Okay, so fall leaves. And then I'll pull up just a bunch of different images and see what's out there, see the pictures people have captured. And then the pictures that I really like, I'll be like, oh, okay, that is future reference right there. I like that. I like the colors that are happening there. That's where I want to go with. So that, for me, that is the basis of all the designs that I do now, because it's something in nature. Usually it's something that's an inspiration there that I can take off from, because you just can't do color better than that. So that's one of the things that we also talk about in there, is how to see what is really happening. Because like so you can see the flower behind me, but if you say you're going to quilt a rose, you're going to applique a rose onto your quilt. All right. So what colors are you going to use? Well, it's a red rose. So I'm going to use red. Okay. And I'm going to use green. And what else? Because if you look at a red rose,
you're going to use,
it's not just red.
Maroon. You're going to use a lighter pink. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, maybe a little white where the light is on it just right. And then, don't forget the center. We have a little bit of yellow maybe there in the center. And the stem. We've got our green. We've got the little thorns. Maybe they're a little more darker green. And then, of course, lime green. Lime green is a neutral. I can prove it. I can prove it. But
just how I prove that purple is a neutral.
Yes. Oh, I'm with you.
One of my favorite.
Yeah. We need to do a little YouTube session on that one.
Totally.
We do. Yeah. Okay.
No.
All right.
It's like, I just feel like I met like a soul sister in this interview.
Oh, man.
All right.
Definitely.
So listeners, we have no idea. Like, I had no idea who Jenny Kae Parks was, and she probably didn't know who I was until she actually went to my website. I'm so honored, because you are actually the first one who clicked on my Let's Collab. I just put it on there like last year,
really?
So it's not been on there that long. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I got that email, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yay! It's working.
I mean, I've gotten some where they're just like these scammer companies and stuff. So then I'm like, wait a second, who is this Jenny Kae Parks? And then I'm like, oh It's for real.
Well, yay. Oh,
yeah,
that's very cool. That's
cool.
very cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, the colors. Oh, this is awesome.
And
Very
so
good.
the second shop that I worked at here in Denver, and they recently closed, but I have to say they closed because the gal who was running it retired. But
was that Pink Door?
No, that's a different one.
Denver?
They're a little north of Denver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
This was Wooden Spools is what it was called.
Okay.
And her business, she's a big knitter. So half of it was knitting. Half of it was what she called revived fabric. So quilters would bring in stuff from their stashes. And if it was good, high quality fabric, no smells, unwashed and everything like that, she would buy it and then sell it again. You could find all kinds of stuff.
Nice.
So she had blenders there. And also, I mean, I'm telling you guys, going through boxes and boxes of fabric, figuring out what's good enough to go out on the floor, you learn a ton. A ton.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. And, but working for her was amazing because she was such a brilliant kind of entrepreneur, but very generous person, a very warm and welcoming and kind person. Just a tremendous. It was so, it was an honor for me to work for her, even for the short time that I was able to do that. But what she also had in her fabric too, she had some blenders, but then she also had cherrywood. And it was the first time I'd ever seen cherrywood. And she had it in a display, floor to ceiling, this whole flow of every color you could possibly imagine. And I'm like, the light descends from above. Oh, I was like, wow. And so anytime that I could play with the cherrywood, she was saying, oh, yeah, play with that. Look at that. What do you think about this? Oh, if we do this, and then we put that thing there. Oh, look at that. Just get so excited about it. It's like, I don't know if you remember this or anything, but when I was a kid, I think the biggest box of crayons you could get was just like, it just had like, there was a 12, and then the next grade up, I could go a little bit bigger. And then that year that they came out with something that was over 100 and it had the sharpener in the back. And I was like, oh,
and
Mom.
the lid flipped up and they were like layered. I love those.
And can I tell you, I organized all of those by color. I did. But that's what the cherrywood stuff was like to me. All the colors. What can we do with this? And then she connected me with Carla at Cherrywood. So I got to be Cherrywood ambassador, and that's so fun. I love that. I love being able to work with all the colors, and I love it.
So Cherrywood is like,
yes,
they have like the one type of fabric, and they are the best at it.
Oh yeah,
and it's like it's hand dyed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, even as an ambassador, I don't know the whole process because it's proprietary. They won't tell you.
Oh, okay.
But it's hand dyeing, and the way they do it, everything is pre-shrunk.
Yep.
And so you don't have to worry about that. But it's soft. It has
very
kind
soft.
of a marbleized effect, kind of a little bit.
It's very
like suede.
Dimensional fabric, because it's not just one flat color, which is what the greatest thing about that fabric is, and it draws a lot of art quilters to it, and just any quilter really that actually has been able to see it at their local quilt shops.
Yes.
Okay, so Cherrywood, that's awesome.
It sews like butter. I love it. I love it. So normally I'm a big starcher, and in fact that's one of the things I have on my YouTube, my method for starching stuff, which I developed working in when doing the filming, right? Because you're filming something, and okay, so now we're going to press this to the dark, and you want to press it, and you want it to stay down perfectly for that shot. You want that shot. And what I was finding is stuff I'd just press it regularly or not starch it, and it might pop back up or something like that. And you'd have to kind of circle back to get the shot you wanted. But so I just got in the habit during the filming is that any stuff I'd get in, I would do all the starching on it so that it would behave. You don't have to do that with Cherrywood. It just behaves beautifully and doesn't shift. I mean, it's just wonderful. So I love it because all the colors
They
You
have
have
a
all the
lot of
colors there,
colors.
all the
Hmm.
colors that you can find.
Hmm.
So it's pretty awesome.
Oh, cool. Cherrywood, nice.
And
Uh,
it's not, what do I want to say? It's, it's high level fabric, would be the way to put it. It's
uh
not, they're not inexpensive, but
yes, yeah,
so you figure out kind of, you target what you're going to do with it.
right,
For a
right,
while, I was making like, and doing quilts with it, full size quilts,
yeah.
and submitting that to magazines, but that just didn't move because cherrywood is so, because it's more expensive, but you want to use it for smaller things where you
Mm.
can highlight those things. That's why I got the
Yeah, and I
little
think they
one with the
sell
tulips behind
them in
me.
smaller bundles too,
They
so you can
do,
get
they
all the
do.
colors
Yes.
that they're known for. It's for like
Yeah.
great gradient projects. Yeah,
Yes.
it's really
Yeah.
nice. But I want to back up to something you had said with teaching quilters
Oh,
color theory, like for quilters,
specifically,
which is
yeah.
true because I come from interior design
Right.
and I did take the color theory in school and
Yes.
all that stuff. And of course, I also then sewed clothing, which takes yardage, and
Hmm.
interior design takes yardage, and the scale is bigger. So when I started quilting, then I like learned quickly you don't need to buy like 5 yards of fabric for the quilt unless it's the back, something
I
like
mean, you still
that.
can, but
You can, but then you don't for quilts. You do it differently than other types of
hmm
sewing or decor. The prints are small scale because you want
hmm
to be able to
hmm
see them cut
hmm
up in the quilt. So that's part of it. And mixing prints is part of it because you can
hmm
mix unlimited prints in quilting, but then people have a fear or scared of like how they put all these in there. And so that's
hmm
what it sounds like what you do. I think it's brilliant. I love it. I love that you do this because it can really open up. Do you have students where they're just like, oh my gosh, you just totally opened my eyes and I feel so confident that I can
Yes.
do this now?
Yeah. Yeah. If you go on there, I've listed some reviews. It
Uh,
only allows you like a certain space on the course
uh-huh.
platform, but yeah, and that's something I always love about it. I want
Um,
there to be several times throughout there that the student will sit back and go, oh, 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 and they're
yeah.
realizing all these things and putting the dots
Yeah.
together. I actually just taught one, taught the 3 of the lessons. I have 5 lessons on the right now. I'm going to add more, but 5 lessons on the course, and I teach the 3 in person because the last 2 you need to, it takes some time in between. But anyways, I'm teaching that in person. When I'm realizing these gals that I'm teaching, they had the confidence there. It was just somebody to say, just to pull that out a little bit. No, you have that there because
Uh-huh.
so many. I would see people come into the shop and they would say, "Oh, my friend's here with me to help me pick this out because she's really good at color." Right,
Yeah.
which is great. It's
Yeah.
wonderful that friends are good at color. But what you're saying is, I'm not good at color. I
Mm.
have to have her
Yeah.
because I don't know how to do it. When really, it's so much about seeing what's there and then your own vision. What do you like?
Yeah.
What looks good to you? Right. And
Yes.
not being stuck in what do I see on Instagram? What is the latest thing in the magazine? Not being
Yeah.
stuck there, but being able to see what
Mhm.
you like and the ideas that you have. So yeah, I love that. I
And
love that.
there's always that fear that, oh, it's wrong. I can't do that. It's against the rules. And it's just like, you make the rules. You make the rules for your quilts and for your
Yes.
stuff. I do that. I say that for interior design too. This is your home. You're living in it. I'm not living there. We're going to do what you want, but I'm going to guide you as,
Mm-hmm.
to do like make your vision come to
Mm-hmm.
life. So the same thing with quilters, I think, are kind of like sometimes um, dictated to from. Not, I don't want to. Not saying that magazines are bad, but they
Right.
can
No, no.
feel like that they have to do it this way, and they
Yeah.
don't. They really don't. Because
Right.
how do you think that new color combinations come together from people who have experimented and pulled
Mm-hmm.
together something that they liked, and then other
Mm-hmm.
people are like, "Ooh, that looks really cool."
Mm-hmm.
I want to try that.
That's one of the things in the course is like reviewing it. Okay, we put this together. What color combinations did you see that you're surprised about? What things you're like, oh, those do look nice. I would have never thought of that. And now you think of it, and now that's a future quilt idea.
Yeah, and it gets their creative juices going. That's awesome.
Yes.
I really love that. Very cool. So I'll have that in the show notes, the link to your because you teach it in person, but you said you have 2 parts that are online, or
so
is the whole thing online?
I have a course online. The whole thing's online.
Oh, good. Okay.
But I do teach it to local shops, and like if guilds, I've presented it for guilds too. And it's only the first 3 that are presented to guilds and in person, because that's stuff we can do that day.
Right.
The other 2 have assignments. All right, go and do this, go and do that, and go and do that thing, and pull those together. So they can't be taught the same day. But it's enough. It's enough to get you started, get all those things pumping, and get you with ideas and confidence. I think that's a big thing. There isn't a right. There isn't you always have to do it this way. There's how do you see it? How does color work? How does that color actually work in nature? How does it work when you see it? What rules, and yeah. Good. Oh, I'm sorry. I take that back. There's actually 4 exercises that we do. Oh, wrong.
Okay.
I'm free. Yeah, 4 exercises that we do in person.
Okay. Really
sorry
good.
about that. And then the other 2 exercises are on.
Okay.
Are part of the course because they take more time. But yeah.
Very good. And then you also have a machine binding course.
I do.
And machine binding has really become a thing in the last 10 years, I think.
It has.
Because before then, again, here we go talking about the rules again. And it's not a quilt, it's not real unless you're, hand bound. And I actually like hand binding quilts myself, but I also machine bind when it needs to be, or when I want to. And so it's good that you have this course out there. And again, it just opens up opportunities for quilters to do things that are good for their time frames. And what do they say? Finished is better than
perfect.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that course grew out of a shop sample that I was making. I had to turn it in the next day, and it was going to be published in a book, photographed and published in a book. And I'm telling you, that binding was so bad. Fortunately, they were able to cover the worst corner, with another quilt. It was a disaster. And I thought, that's it. Forget it. I'm going to let everything else go. I need to find a way to quilt where I can do it quickly, because I'm usually under a time crunch. Surprise. I'm usually under a time crunch. It needs to be quick. It needs to look good. And I need to be able to teach it, because that's what I do. And no special tools or something that I'm going to have to rediscover how to do it every time I bind a quilt. And that's what I did. I love it. I use it all the time, except for I still will not do it if it's a quilt that I know is going to be judged on a competition level.
Right.
Because they want the judges are going to feel that binding and make sure that everything is full and flush. Right. And it doesn't always happen with machine binding.
Right.
But I can bind a queen size quilt in about 2 hours and have it look good, and it's out
machine.
the door. By machine, yeah.
Okay.
I can do that by machine.
No way.
No, not by my hand. No.
Oh, no, by machine, for sure.
Yeah. And so I really enjoy doing that. And I've got a lot of positive feedback about it. People enjoying the class and taking it. And so it's been very beneficial. I teach that one I teach it locally, and I have the course, and I also teach guilds. I can do that virtually and stuff.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I had both my nieces over this weekend. So we were machine binding her quilt, and the back of her quilt was this blue color. But the front was all different colors, lighter, brighter colors and stuff. So we picked out the thread for the back that totally blends in.
Yes.
Because I haven't perfected to where my stitching from the front is perfectly stitched on the binding in the back. It'll still run off a little, but when you have the thread that blends in, who cares? Because you can't even notice it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what's the point? And if somebody's going to pick at it, they can do it themselves.
Right?
Okay.
There you go.
No. I'm doing the best I can. I'm getting it out the door.
Yeah.
Charity quilts. I mean, if the kids are going to make a tent out of it in the backyard in 4 years, it's not going to matter. It's okay. It's okay.
Right. Yeah. But
I do it with the stuff that I know is going to be in magazines because I like to do a decorative stitch around there.
That's where you could, make use of your decorative stitches, right?
Yes.
Fun.
Yes. That's a bonus. I love that. I love that. Makes them extra special.
Cool. Okay. So machine binding course. And there's something that I noticed on your website that you and I share the same opinion on.
Oh.
And it is that we hate basting.
Oh
my gosh.
That's the thing I don't like about quilting. The basting, oh my mercy. Yeah. I've tried to find ways to do it. I've tried to find ways because I've tried to find ways. I think I've started making smaller quilts partly because I don't like to baste.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, like the floor thing, first of all, we live in like a pretty narrow, so there's not really a room where like there's a king size amount of space. And secondly, I have basted on the floor. And now I'm to the age where I'm just like, no, it hurts too much. It's my knees, kneeling on the floor is just like in your back and all that stuff. And so then you bring it on the table. But if you were to baste, if I were to have a table that was at least 5 feet wide by 10 feet long, basting would be a piece of cake, right?
Yeah.
You could fit it all on there. It's not pulling the weight and, but it's not, I have like a 30 or 40 to 40 inch wide table. And so all of the time, like part of your quilt is always hanging off the side, or I'm propping up chairs to make sure the weight doesn't hang off the side and pull up. So it's very hard. And I do like pin basting better than spray basting. But like with my niece's quilt, it's bad. So here I am trying to show her how to baste. And then we got halfway through with the pinning, and I looked at the other side and I'm just like, there's folds in this. We have to do it again. My poor niece is just like, what?
I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh.
This is the worst.
It is. I told her, you know what? It's okay to not like a certain process of the whole thing, quilt making, and this would be one of mine. So, and I don't want you to hate it. So we're going to do it over again, and we're going to, have fun and just go with it. And so then I did a little bit of both. Yeah. So I'm like, it was nice because you normally just have yourself. I have myself to just baste. I had her. So I'm like, we're going to make this work, and we're going to put the bottom down, and then I'm going to we'll put the batting in there, and you're going to lift it up a little bit. I'm going to spray a little bit, and then we're going to tap it down, and then we're going to pin. So I just kind of spray tacked the stuff in place.
Okay. That's clever.
And we went through and pinned, and she pinned on the one side and I pinned on the other side, and we took it half, because that's the other thing, the direction of the pins face when you're putting it in your machine. So we figured out, your half the pins are going to go this way and my half the pins are going to go that way. It was awesome. Yeah. I'm like, this is actually the most fun I've had in basting ever.
Have you tried the pool noodle or the
No.
bars with it? I tried that. That worked better because you can just ooch across in smaller parts. But
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. So anyway, it's just basting is what it is. I don't like it. Right. I don't have to like it.
Right.
I just have to do it. And then once it is basted, then it's like,
yeah, all right.
Now,
let's get to it.
Let's finish this up. All right. So then here's what I talked about earlier that we're going to get to is tearing or ripping fabrics. And you have a little video on your YouTube channel, which your YouTube channel is Jenny Kae Quilts?
Jenny Kae Quilts.
Yes, Jenny Kae Quilts. It'll be in the link will be in the show notes. So I like the video that you do because you talk about, why you like to tear or rip fabrics and the reasons, and with the warp and the weft and all that kind of stuff. And I've, it's like one of those things where when you're out in the quilt world, whether you're like in a class or guild or just even in the quilt shop, and then people get in a discussion about it, and there's always like to tear, to rip, or not to rip, and some people feel very strongly of like, you are ruining that fabric.
Yes, you're destroying it.
Never be the same. And then it's just like, well, it will be, and it's like a very fast way to get a perfectly squared side of your fabric. And we're lucky because quilting is mostly comprised of cottons, which are woven with the warps and the wefts.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what are the reasons you like it?
Well, okay, just a little bit of history. So when I worked at Sofro Fabrics, we cut everything, you line it up, you measure it, you line it up with the groove, and you cut it with the scissors, right? Yeah. And then the first quilt shop that I worked at, we ripped everything, which was really new to me. But I did find one, as a shop, it's very practical because you don't need the cutting mats and the rotary cutters and the rulers. So you don't have to worry about maintaining those or getting new ones or whatever. But what I found is that you would get that straight edge. When my grandma would, in the older patterns and stuff, they would say you have to, if you're going to line this up on the grain line, and to find the grain line, you have to count so many threads over, pull that thread out, and that will give you the straight edge. I'm like, oh no, I don't have time for that. So this is another way to find that straight edge. When you get, we've all done it, right? You bring fabric home and the fold may be straight, but the salvage is all, one part of it's going off at an angle, right? It's not perfectly lined up when you do that.
And then you don't have all your yardage. It's happened to me a lot.
Right. That can totally make a difference. When you rip it, you get that yardage because it's all there. But so the fold, like the salvage is different, or the fold is all wonky, or something's off. That's because in the manufacturing, when they weave it, they're done with that part. But when they want to put it on the bolt, I don't know if you've ever seen those videos, right? But they line it up really carefully and they turn it on. And blah, 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 blah. And it's all, what happened here? And so they're not concerned with the straight of grain. They have a shipment to make. Yeah. I have to find this straight of grain. So finding that, I think, makes having that there makes a huge difference. Yeah. When I prep for filming, I rip that fabric and then I do the starching and I'm all ready to go and it's straight. Nice. What I was finding before I really started doing the ripping and the starching is that like you'd make a block, right? And maybe it's birds in the air, right? So you've got some half square triangles, you've got some other stuff. And all right, this is 8 inches, 8 inches, 8 inches, 7 3/4. What the heck? Why? This is all the same. Why is this block different?
Right.
And what I was finding is that other block would be different. There'd be variances in it because instead of when you don't cut on that straight line, you get a little bit of the bias in there. And it may be more than you expected. It may be a lot more than you expected. So what we want in quilting when you're making one block after another is consistency. We want the same fabric to work the same way when I use the same techniques. So I get the same results. That's what I want. And when you have that bias in there, an unknown amount of bias and an unknown amount of straight grain, and they're playing off of each other, you're going to get inconsistent results. So that's kind of the first thing that I teach beginners. We're going to rip it and you're going to do this because it will keep these problems from happening. And when I teach how to do triangles, this will keep your triangles right. It will keep them, you'll keep the points because that's the point. So that's what I find with it. And it just works. I don't know how else to explain it, but you are working with the fabric the way the fabric is meant to be worked. Does that make sense? Yes. You've got that straight of grain and it's beautiful. And it takes no time at all. And I always recommend too, at this shop, we always would, they'd say I want 7/8 of a yard. And so you'd give them a few extra inches to account for that ripping. It allows you, because it can fray up the edges, right? It can get them a little wavy. It
Right.
allows you that extra bit to trim that off, and then you can use it for applique, you can use it for something else, whatever.
Right. Okay. Because it does create that wavy edge.
It does.
And you can press it, but it's still sort of sometimes just not like you can start your block or your whatever you're cutting, whether it's strips of fabric or whatever, you move in a little bit. Right?
Yeah. So I'll rip it, right? And you have that wavy bit, and then I'll lay it down and I'll trim that I'll make sure the straight edges is there, and I'll use that straight edge that I've created, that ripped edge, as my reference for the whole thing.
Gotcha.
The salvages can be doing whatever, the fold can do whatever, but I am following this. This is my standard
that's
now.
your guide.
Right.
Gotcha.
And then you cut on that, and then you're cutting on the straight of grain.
Yes.
I have had some fabrics that somehow the gray goods, just what they're manufactured out of, it would get off grain as I would go along. Let's say I'm cutting 10 strips. I get 5 strips in. This is off grain. I need to rip it again. And that's the gray goods that you start with. So in the couple years of working at that quilt shop where we ripped everything all day, fat quarter, everything was ripped. There were 2 fabrics that it did not work properly, and that was due to defects in the fabrics themselves.
Okay.
And so my ripping it discovered that defect.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, it doesn't damage the fabric.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll say that was for cotton fabrics.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd do it on, silks or something else like that. I don't know that I would do that. No. I haven't played enough around with that. I don't have my 10,000 hours on that one, but I do on the other one.
You can do it with the cottons and the lighter weight, broadcloth, stuff like that. But a cotton linen blend, you won't be able to do it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
You would have to pull a thread.
Right.
To
do something
the
like
linen.
that.
Linen fabrics they have a different thing with.
They're a little more picky.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's great. That's great. And again, people can choose to do the cutting and the ripping the way they want. I know sometimes just the sound, people don't like. They're like covering their ears because it sounds to them it's like nails on a chalkboard. So
destruction.
Then don't rip.
Right.
Just slice and dice it.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
You do you.
But there's a reason. It's not like people just rip it to be lazy or, whatever.
No.
They're that's why I brought it up, because there's a reason for it. And so now we all know what that is.
Yeah, that straight grain makes a huge difference.
Right.
But I will say, in comparison with the Cherrywood, I don't rip that. It's already like that manufacturing is totally different. It's not whipped up onto bolts like the other stuff, and you get it. You can tell where the grain line is, and you're good.
Cherrywood fabrics.
Yeah, I haven't had any problems with that one, but
good.
So I don't rip a Cherrywood, but I do everything else that I get. Yeah, and I always buy a little extra, or a yard or extra or something.
Yes,
it's always extra. But and I wouldn't rip. Of course, pre-cuts. I wouldn't do that. No, not at all. And if you get a kit, and it just has exactly what you need, then you can't. So there you go. It's not it's a guide. It's not a rule.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's mainly for full width.
Yeah, exactly.
Yardage.
Exactly.
Like you said, you wouldn't do it in an already cut piece.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
All right. Then, okay. So let's talk about recently you were on the Quilt Show with Alex Anderson and Ricky Tim.
I was. It was so exciting. It
How
was so exciting.
Tell us all, what was your segment about? It's up there now, so people are members. They can go watch it.
Yes.
And I think saw a preview for it when they were introducing, but I need to go back and watch the full segment. But yes, I'm so excited to hear
so
this.
I taught, it was Ricky Tim's that I was teaching. So I was doing the one-on-one with him. And it was just an amazing day. They are both Ricky and Alex, I feel odd using the first name basis because I'm still like, oh. But they're so professional and so kind, and they're just on the mark, and they got it, and here you go, and so good at what they do. It's really, really just so awesome to be around. It was just awesome. And then there was a lot of people. So they filmed in this Airbnb and there were other people, like there's all the staff and camera and lights and whatnot, but then there's also the other guests that are going to be on there. So it was just so fun. It was a whole day of, I think it was all day. Yeah, it wasn't 2 days. It was just one day. And everybody that was there that you'd see coming and going for the segments and lunch and everything was so awesome. And like I was telling you before, I walked in the door and you'd go just a couple of steps to get up to the main area. And Ricky Timms comes over and he says, "Hi, I'm Ricky Timms." Like, of course you are. I know who you are. I'm so excited. And so the segment was about binding. And I have to tell you, I mean, we just discussed this. I have a course. I've taught it in guilds. I've taught it in person. And here I am with Ricky Timms. And I'm like, what do I do next? Okay. I kind of just lost it for a minute or two. I'm like, yeah. And he's, "So do we want to do this?" "Yeah, let's do that." I'm here. I know how to do this. I swear. But I taught some of the parts of the beautiful machine binding and showed some of my stuff, and it was really fun. It was an amazing experience, kind of a high level mark, because I mean, all the way back in the beginning, I'm watching them. I'm watching Alex, and Ricky Timms would be a guest, and I'm watching Eleanor Burns, and I'm sitting back and I'm thinking, I can do that. I can do that. I want to be able to do that. And then to do it is really cool. It's very cool.
Yeah. And okay, so you're used to being filmed and on camera and stuff, but now you're in this environment with legends. And were you nervous? Like, were your hands shaking sometimes when I watch guests on these shows, I can see their hands shaking, and I'm like, oh, I know. And I don't even know how I would be, but how were you?
I think there was a little bit of the I'm gonna barf. I'm gonna barf now. I'm gonna throw up plays. But you just kind of have to take some deep breaths and let it go and rely on what you already know and who you are. I think it's so easy in that space to get really intimidated. And I feel that. I feel like I'm a little tiny fish in a big old pond. But to what do I want to say? To not diminish what I did to get there, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I don't know how they ended up calling me. It was somebody, she said, "Oh yeah, somebody over at the Quilt Museum, Rocky Mountain Quilt Museum, said I should talk to you." I'm thinking, I don't know anybody at the Rocky Mountain. Who do I know? So it wasn't anything that I directly did, but I'm not going to diminish that. "Oh no, you don't. Oh no, not me." Just say, all right, I'm not where they are, but I am here, and I do have something to contribute, and I have value for being here. I think
that's
as
a great
quilters,
takeaway. Yeah.
Oh, well, we as quilters, we do this all the time, right? You show somebody your quilt, and they say, "Oh, that's beautiful. I love how you did this or whatever and the other thing." And we're like, "Oh no, I'm," and we start to point out all the mistakes. We start to point out all the flaws.
Yeah.
It's like something inside us thinks, I don't deserve these compliments that you're giving me, so I'm going to reject them. We need to stop that thinking in our heart and change that and say, "No, well, thank you. I appreciate that." And see it for what it is and not diminish it, not comparing our weaknesses to somebody else's strengths. That's a huge one for me, because I do that all the time.
Yeah. I'm trying to soak that in myself too.
Yeah.
Yep. It's very inspirational, and it's something that I really just need to absorb, and it's almost like a second nature reaction that I would just have to train, like you've done, like you've talked to yourself of, like, I'm not diminishing how I got here, and why I'm here, and that I'm not good enough. But I mean, maybe it came natural to you, but because you are a very extrovert, vivacious personality, I'm not. So I have to work harder of, like you said, like, knock it off, and like, just like completely, tell yourself, believe in yourself. And That's good. I really like that takeaway, and I think a lot of people would appreciate it. Because I know I'm not the only one.
No.
So that's great. Oh, I love it. I feel like this is a great natural ending point to our talk, except that I want to just go over that you do have an Etsy shop.
I do.
And we'll put that in the show notes. And then in March, so this is going to publish in March, probably in mid-March. So I don't know when your event is, but you
at the end of March.
Oh, good. This will be in the middle. Oh, perfect. So you're going to be teaching at Quilt Fest, or
yes,
what are you doing?
I will be teaching beautiful machine binding and the quilters color workshop.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
I'll be doing both of those.
Where is this Quilt Fest at in March?
It's virtual.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So anybody can jump in. Anybody
awesome.
can jump in.
All right, we'll put a link for that too, so people can sign up and go virtually. I love virtual. I do.
Yeah, I do too.
Because I don't have to pack up my machine and lug everything everywhere.
Right? And everybody has all their equipment. When you're teaching them, I forgot it at home. No, I didn't. I got it right here.
Right here, and I get the front row seat no matter what. I love that too. Yeah. Oh, good. Well, thank you so much for contacting me from my website. I really appreciate it. And otherwise, I would not have known you otherwise. So it was just like meant to be. And it was so great talking with you. And like I said earlier, I feel like I've met a soul sister with you.
We need to do that purple and green thing.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. So thanks so much. I'm going to have your links in the show notes, and continued success with you. I mean, you're very inspirational, and I can see why these companies want you to, partner with them.
Thank you.
So thanks. And we'll talk again.
We definitely will. Definitely will. You're a wonderful interviewer. This was great.
Oh, thanks. All right. Talk soon. Bye-bye.